Talk from a higher dimensional perspective. Looking at current affairs and the energies of the times. With a high vibrational proactive approach. Come and explore the universe within us all. Sundays, 1 till 3 on Wolf Spirit Radio. With Katy Gallanti and Jay Perron. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
Well. Okay, right. Okay, this should be... Yep, right, okay. Great apologies. I've been rewiring a few things this week, and I hadn't realized that when I reassemble it, I hadn't plugged in the right cable into the studio system, and you were actually listening on the laptop microphone that it broadcasts on, so that was is why the sound was awful. So... See, it's one of these, I mean, aside from all this astrology, which maybe you could sort of just nutshell a little bit, just in case anybody didn't hear it properly, but aside from all this astrology, we've got Mercury retrograde.
In Scorpio.
In Scorpio. And I've been an IT guy for 35 years, longer than most people have had, awareness of the internet. And so I have physically, not physically, but like in my experience, I've experienced Mercury retrograde, and it's usually when it starts to go direct at the end, that's when I get my jobs. Because, people's computers just die. Hard drives die. So what I would say to everybody is make sure that you've got not one backup, but two. Always make two backups, because if your first backup fails, then at least you've got a backup of the backup. This is my computer industry experience telling me that. Never rely on technology, and especially during and towards the end of Mercury retrogrades. Katy, sorry about that.
It's okay.
There we go. So you may be best to kind of recap and or kind of start from the beginning. When you talk about Miley Cyrus.
All right. So starting at the beginning, not of the astrology piece, of the other piece. Right?
Well, if you want to redo the astrology piece as well, then maybe I could just edit the bits. It's terrible. Because basically, you heard people heard you over my speakers through my laptop mic. It wasn't good.
Okay. Right. I understand.
Now you're right.
The astrology piece, I'm just gonna bullet point it, is Pluto Uranus square is exact again on November 1st, so we're already under the influence of it. Anybody that has degrees in their chart that are between 8 and 10 of cardinal, that is basically Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn, are going to be feeling the effects of the Pluto-Uranus square. If you don't know what your degrees are, go to astro.com and plug in your data, and they will give you a free chart to look at. Okay? And so Pluto-Uranus square, Pluto is basically intense. It causes things to die so that they can be reborn. It's like the phoenix aspect planet. Okay. It also rules anything that is secret. It rules taboos, psychopaths, and psychotherapy, and taboos. Okay, so it's a deep and underworldy kind of planet. Okay,
yeah. Because actually, what they were saying is it sounds like the interview's been being done in a bathroom. So, I said that we are in Scorpio.
Exactly, and Uranus instead is rapid change, rapid thinking, new thinking, lightning bolts, sudden events, shocking events, and things that are unusual, eccentric, and out of the box. In fact, our show, in a way, is very Pluto Uranus, in the sense that we dig deep and we go out of the box, right? So, when Pluto and Uranus are working together, when they were conjunct the last time was during the 60s, and they were the predominant from 1962 to 1969. You had a Pluto-Uranus conjunction. That was the whole energy of the 60s, change and revolution, or whatever you want to call it. And the square, the first time that they've touched again since then is now, when we have the square that started in 2010, is going to continue until 2015. And we are now on the fourth exact square, because these two planets are going backwards and forwards on the path of the ecliptic, and so every time they come into exact aspect, they intensify, and this is the fourth time that they come into exact aspect. The last time was in June. Before that, it was June of the year beforehand. And I can't remember when the first one was, but I think it was sometime in 2010. Then they're going to be exact again in April of 2014, and again in December of 2014. Okay, so these two planets are going to be dancing around each other until 2015. There's another one in 2015, but I don't know when it is. Okay, every time these two planets come together, things intensify, the change intensifies, and there is opportunity for old structures to be thrown down and rebooted. And I think that the whole of the Pluto-Uranus square, in a way, can be summarized as the time in which Pluto in Capricorn meets Uranus in Aries. And Pluto in Capricorn is power and the dark establishment, okay? And Uranus in Aries is the revolutionary force, or the restless force of humanity. Okay, so these two, they come into friction with each other. In fact, during 2011 we had the Occupy thing going on, and and basically the truth movement, if we want, however we want to call it, has become more prominent and more mainstream, and we're going to continue to revisit all of these themes until 2015, according to the astrology. Okay, usually in astrology applied to the collective consciousness shows us periods of change, and usually the second part of the transit is when a lot of these things will come to a head, and hopefully to some kind of resolution. Okay? Now, so that's the astrology for the moment. Okay? So if you're having intensity in your life, that is probably why. If there's intensity in the world, that is kind of why. All right? We also have Mercury retrograde, the Sun in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. It's kind of intense astral weather. Now, so that's the bit on the astrology, all right? And then if we go towards the other stuff that we were going to talk about today, we were going to talk about Russell Brand, and we were going to talk about Miley Cyrus. And what I was saying before is that in some ways both these two things are part of the same topic, and the same topic is basically how the elite manipulates mass consciousness, okay, for different kinds of reasons. And with Miley Cyrus, I'm going to start with Miley because she's easy.
So they say.
Sorry. Well, she's easy in many ways, yes. But she's an easy topic to talk about because she's so blatant. And basically, Miley Cyrus, as far as my observations about her, is that she is somebody that has been groomed since she was little to carry a certain agenda, which is basically the how do we say this? She was Hannah Montana, and she was in everybody's living room, at least in America, as a child, young child star. And even as a young child star, she was introducing things like pole dancing as something fun for kids to do, right? And then, but she herself was still childlike and kind of innocent and you know, was not pushing any darkness at that time, but just in very subtle ways. Then, at a certain point, they decided it was time for her to grow up, and they made her grow up in a way that almost like with a dark satanic coming out party, right? In the sense that one of the first videos that she did in her, you know, new pop star kind of self was the Can't Be Tamed video. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it, right? And basically, in the Can't Be Tamed video, it starts with her in a birdcage. That people that have done research on monarch programming know that the birdcage is a symbol of mind control and monarch programming, right?
And also reference to I Know Where the Caged Bird Sings.
Yep. Yeah. And you will see the birdcage is actually all over. You will see it a lot. It's in magazines. It's in you know, photographs of various people that they want to show. Not necessarily us. I think they're communicating between themselves when they show the birdcage, right? They're basically saying this is one of our mind-controlled assets when they present them in that way, right? And anyway, she was inside of the cage, and she's lying down on the floor, and she has these big black angel wings, but they're black, right? And she's all dressed in black, and she has this, you know, very sexy. She looks pretty, do you get what I mean? But in a very kind of like sexy, provocative way. And
sexualized her.
Absolutely. And I think at the time she was like 16, 17, right? Like very young. And so off she comes out of the, she stands up, and all of a sudden she has these big, humongous black wings, black angelic wings. And she's inside of the cage, and then she steps out, and there's an audience watching this, and she steps out and she tells everybody that she cannot be tamed, and then she sings this whole big old song, right? And which is very sexual and is a big break from who she was as Hannah Montana. Then after that, basically her videos follow, and her songs kind of follow that theme for a while, and then now we're having Miley Cyrus 2.0, right? And Miley Cyrus 2.0 is now naked on a wrecking ball, with pictures of her on Twitter, deep-throating one of the awards statuettes that she's been given. Pictures of her licking the penis cake of her boyfriend. Like literally there's pictures of her doing all of this kind of stuff. If you follow her Twitter stuff, which I do just for research purposes, right, it's highly sexualized, pornographic, almost everything that she posts, okay? And then there's the VMA, like the VMA performance that she did, which was basically a combination of so many different things. You know, if you watch that performance, first of all, she looks, they've, just like before they sexualized her and they made her look older than she was, now it's as if they've taken her back to looking like a child, because she has the short hair and the little kind of bubbly pigtails on top of her head, and she's wearing like the pedo bear costume, right? And she's surrounded by you know, by bear costume type things, right? And so it's almost like they put her back into the child performer thing, and yet they're making her do a performance that is highly pornographic. And not only it's highly pornographic, but she is dressed with a one-eyed teddy bear with the tongue hanging out, and this is now her new signature of going around with the one-eyed performance with the tongue hanging out, right? Which again is very suggestive, but is also apparently a symbol of some Indian deity called Kali, right? That is how that performs. And one of the things that it seems that they're doing with her is that they're sexualizing her even further. But they're sexualizing her in a way that is not even sexy anymore. We've gone into the full-blown pornographic. And at the same time, they're loading her with occult symbols. And at the same time, they're presenting her as if she's a child, surrounded by childish things. And it feels literally as if they're pushing two different things at the same time. One is the normalization of pedophilia, right? And people may not be aware of this, but pedophilia, there's a movement right now to normalize pedophilia as a sexual preference, right? Academic people are writing about this. Obviously, it's New World Order academic people, where it's like, well, of course, children are sexual, and why shouldn't we, allow for that to happen? Society shouldn't be prudish. You know, there was an article just recently about the fact that some London highbrow, academic has basically petitioned the Home Secretary in the UK to allow for sex offenders to be able to adopt children and work with children after they have served their sentence, because why should they be punished if they've already done their time, right? Okay. So
the first thought in my head is, oh crap.
Exactly, right. And then there's some dude in Canada that has written a whole book, and now I can't even remember what it is, but he's going around and he's lecturing about the eroticism of childhood and how we all have sexual feelings for children, and why shouldn't we allow for that, and that basically we're like a Victorian society that cannot accept the sexuality of children and all of this kind of stuff. And this guy is going around and doing lectures and so on, right? So, and these are just two examples, but there's many, and there is an agenda to normalize pedophilia, and I think that Miley Cyrus is being used to do that on the one hand, okay? On the other hand, the other thing that she's doing, and it's not her doing it, by the way. I mean, I'm convinced that Miley Cyrus, if we were to say to her that this is what she's doing, she would have no idea. But this is what the people that are using her for, okay? I'm sure that she has a different idea of what it is that she's doing, that she's probably just publicity stunts and, she's most likely an MK Ultra puppy. And so I'm sure that she has no idea what she's doing. But this is the image that she's being used for, okay? And the other thing is, there's a whole generation of kids that have had her as Hannah Montana in the living room and are witnessing this transition. And this transition from good girl to bad girl, they have done this before. And what they're telling kids is that growing up is about drinking. If you look at all the videos that she's been doing, but not just her, it's also with Keisha and other artists. It's like the growing up process means that you get wasted, that you have sex with everybody, you have sex with, grand orgies. Growing up means behaving in ways where the sexuality is like not only out in the open but has no boundaries whatsoever. There's a video that has 10 million hits, okay? 10 million of this guy. The artist I think is called Borgore. Borgore, okay? And this dude is a dubstep, it's a kind of like New World Order dubstep person. And he's a young guy. And he has this video that is called Decisions. And Miley Cyrus is a guest on this video. It's his video, but she's in it, okay? And she's singing with him and so on. And in this thing, basically, this guy is going to a party, and this party is just booze and drugs and kind of pornographic type liaisons between people, and he goes to this party, then he has to knock on this secret door. They open the secret door so that he can go in, and then they close him behind him, and then the next thing that you know, he's sitting there in the secret place, and he's telling, through the words of his rapping, he's telling us that he's sleeping with 5 women at the same time, that he has to make a choice between pornography and family, and he's choosing pornography, right? Like, he actually says it in the words, if you listen. And then he sits down, and he's got a real goat in his lap, okay? So he's singing all of this kind of like super sexual stuff with this goat in his lap. And then after that, Miley Cyrus appears, and they have this dance together, and they're all like super happy dancing and all the rest of it. And then Miley Cyrus turns around, and she French kisses a guy dressed up as a horse, so it looks as if she's, having like a sexual thing with a horse, okay? And obviously it's a costume and so on, but it's another boundary. Do you know what I mean? It's another boundary that they're crossing, and the whole video is littered with stuff like that, okay? And the concerning thing about this is, like, people can do whatever they want in their private lives, but the thing that is a cause for concern with this and with Miley Cyrus and the Brigor artist and so on is that they're normalizing a really hardcore promiscuity. And they're normalizing it to a very young demographic. Like, they're making it very normal. And these are the kind of things, that orgies and bestiality and all of that kind of stuff, this is the kind of stuff that, 20 years ago, it would be like adult content that young people would not be able to access. And now it's on YouTube. It's like just there, and it has 10 million hits.
That's right. That's right. My girlfriend's daughter, who's like 12 years old, is watching all this stuff, and it's not easy.
Well, it's normalizing it. It's making it normal to be extremely promiscuous and to do things that are they're presenting them as a lot of fun and freedom and liberating and so on. But actually, what it's doing is that it is energetically, if you indulge in very, let's call them dark sexual acts, okay? The effect on the energy field is that your vibration drops, and it allows for a lot of dark energy to come in, even in form of entities, okay? It also creates a scenario where, and here I'm probably going to sound really old-fashioned, okay? And I'm aware of it, and it's fine for me, do you know what I mean? But basically, there are dynamics about relationships between men and women where if sexuality is right at the front of everything, very often in real life, in the video world, it's not that way, but in real life, very often, women, especially young women that engage in really hardcore kind of sexuality and all the rest of it, they end up very heartbroken because women bond through sexuality more than men do. And so, yeah, you go around and you can sleep around with all these different people and have all of these different experiences, but the majority of young women end up bonding with the people that they have these weird experiences with, and then they have heartbreak experiences. Do you know what I mean? It kind of sets the stage for relationships that are not really relationships. They're kind of like transient. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they're exactly what we. I mean, in a way, it's a business, almost like a business prostitution arrangement. I'll do this for you, you do that for me, and we just have, and it's a relationship. It's a relationship. It is. If you know what you're doing, then all fine. But this is, yeah. So anyway, go on.
Yeah, well, and what I mean is it's like it's opening the door for bonding that is not bonding, for very easy sexuality, but it's not the foundation for creating love, right? And most people want love, even if they think they want sex, eventually they want love. Do you know what I mean? And
that's right. Eventually, there comes a time.
Absolutely, and then so there's the pollution. Basically, I'm not the only person that says this. If you look at Barbara Marciniak's book on, I can't remember the name of this book, but it's her fourth book. It has a red cover, Paths to Enlightenment or something. Anyway, the Pleiadians in that book talk about the dynamics of sexuality, and they talk about the fact that there's a bonded, connected sexuality, and then there's the kind of perversion sexuality, right? And the perversion sexuality is basically the entryway for entities to come into the energy field, and that's how they do it. They plug into the second chakra, they just go for that, okay? And so here you have the satanic elite that have their MK puppets, and they are promoting this really promiscuous sexuality at younger and younger and younger ages, right? And it has all sorts of deleterious effects. Apart from the entity aspect of things, it's also creating a society in which people just use each other. Yeah, it's not based on love. It's giving you an idea of freedom as I do whatever the hell I want, that is extremely narcissistic. And it's also Aleister Crowley's do what thou wilt. It's Luciferian philosophy, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So it's basically, in a nutshell, it's like converting the youth to their energy frequency band. Okay, they're trying to bring everybody into this energy frequency band, and also at the same time, as we know, there has been an attack on the family from day one, from, let's call it, the New World Order. And the reason which they do that is because that if the family unit is strong, it's actually very hard to manipulate people. But as people are all divided and split up and, on their own and all the rest of it, it's much easier to, the society foundation is weaker. Okay? So there's various things going on there. So that is what I wanted to say about Miley Cyrus. I mean, as I say, as a being, there's something in that girl that I actually that I like, and I think that she's not that aware of what it is that she's doing, but she's being used very heavily right now to kind of take the energy of a younger generation into a really low frequency, and she's being used to normalize very dark manifestations of sexuality. Okay, and in fact, it seems that that's happening more and more. It's almost like in every video she has, it's taking it down a further notch. Okay, and also she has just done, she's done several photo shoots with Terry Richardson. And if you go and have a look at Terry Richardson's website, do you know who Terry Richardson is?
I don't know.
You don't? Okay, well, Terry Richardson is a photographer, okay, and he seems to be the elite photographer. He has pretty much photographed every MK person that there is out there. Okay.
Okay. Let's just break that down. When you have a photographer who is like well known for being the MK, club photographer, he's bound to also be involved in the actual hardcore doings of the.
Yes.
He'll be a handler. He'll be involved in the breaking and the whole process of that. It's a very interesting thing, and I will mention this to my stepdaughter.
Well, Terry Richardson, the way that he's promoted as a very kind of like risque, on the edge and daring photographer for supermodels and anybody important and famous. Okay? So it's almost like a rite of passage to have your picture taken with Terry Richardson because he will break the boundaries in some ways. But if you actually go and have a look at his website, and you go to his people's page, right, where he takes all of these pictures of all these people, you will see that about 90% of the pictures that are on his website are of people that are in the entertainment industry, that carry all of the signatures of being monarchs and MK Ultra, and he photographs them in ways, again, that are very pornographic a lot of the time, and in positions that have symbols of who they actually are, to the point that I think that his website is a catalogue that shows elite people, who these people are and what they do. It's almost like what their specialty is. Okay. And if you go and you take a look at, he's got 450 pages of pictures on there. And I actually sat through about 100 of them. I went through about 100 pages of it. Okay. And I must admit that at the end I felt really sick that I had to, it was like, oh my God, I can't take one more picture. I have to leave. Right. The other thing that Terry Richardson has done, that I wasn't aware of and kind of stumbled upon by chance because a friend of mine shared a picture with me, was that Terry Richardson actually did a reenactment of the Abu Ghraib pictures, using models and himself as part of the resetting of the stage, right? And then he made a whole book about it. And that book is apparently illegal for purchase in the USA, but a bestseller in Japan, right? So basically he reenacted all of the Abu Ghraib pictures with models and claimed that it was just a part of American culture now, and that all that was happening in Abu Ghraib was the acting out of American signature pornography, right? And then what he did was that he just did the whole pictures all over again as if it was all a whole bunch of fun, right? So this is the energy of this guy, okay? Now, Miley Cyrus has had, I think, about 4 different photo shoots with this guy now, right? And in the latest photo shoot that she has had with this guy, there are several pictures in which you can see the Baphomet symbol. Sorry about this. For some reason, my Skype is allowing advertisement on it every now and then.
Is it?
Yeah. So every now and then.
Is that an apple? Is that
so
apple?
Anyway.
All right. Okay. Sorry, Katie. Go on.
Yeah. So anyway, so he has the 4 photos. There's several photos on there in which you can see on the leotard that she's wearing, you can see the Baphomet head. And I think it's been photoshopped onto there. I don't think that is a shadow on her, on what she's wearing. I think it's literally, he has photoshopped in the Baphomet thing, okay? And,
Baphomet, Baphomet, for those of you who may be not aware, it's the goat-headed demon beast that is portrayed in the same pose as Abraham Lincoln, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, actually, Abraham Lincoln is in the pose of Baphomet. It's the other way around.
All right.
Okay, but yes, you're right. But the pose of Abraham Lincoln comes from the pose of the Baphomet thing that I think it's, and that particular drawing of the goat-headed demon with the one as the above so below symbol with the one arm at the top and one at the bottom, I think comes from Masonic literature, right? And Baphomet is the demonic entity that is most visible in the entertainment industry. Okay, there's references to Baphomet all the way through the entertainment industry, and And she obviously, and that reference is also in the photo shoot. But if you look at photographs of Beyonce, there's Baphomet references on one of her album covers. If you look at the photographs of Rihanna in her Umbrella video, there's references to Baphomet in that video, and so on and so on. Almost every star that rises to a certain point seems to have Baphomet symbolism on all over their stuff. Okay, and that is because that is one of the demonic energies that they involve in the entertainment industry.
Well, yeah, because that. For instance, Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones are both publicly admitted speaking. Selling their soul to the devil, as it were. And part of the legend, the rock legend, is that every album, every band that releases an album with some reference to the devil on it becomes a successful band. Now, I'm not sure. I think it might be the other way round. It's like you say, it's a signature because this is how you say thank you. So like, what is it? Stairway to Heaven, and it makes me wonder. Go backwards is thank you, whatever.
Yeah, I understand. And that's a good point, because you can look back even as far as the 1970s, and you will find people like John Todd that come out and say that there is nobody in the, and this is a long time ago. This is like 1978 or something. Okay, so this is before MTV. And Vivo videos, do you know what I mean, and so on. And he was saying that there's not one single person that makes a record that is picked up by major labels that has not been initiated as a witch and that has not pretty much taken the vows. Okay? And you can go online and you can go on YouTube and you can listen to hours and hours of recordings of John Todd explaining all of the ins and outs and the connections to witchcraft and Satanism of the entertainment industry, even to the point where he says that when a record is made, at the time it was obviously LPs, that they would actually take all of the stacks of the LPs into this ritual room at the top of some building, and then they would do a ritual and imprint every single copy with entities, okay? And
I've heard about this, and somebody I knew, I think we've spoken about this before, but used to see all the demons in her dad's record collection kind of coming out to her.
Yeah. And the thing is, we can believe this stuff or not, but they believe it. It's part of their ritual, it's part of what they do. And people can go along with it or not, or understand it or not, or embrace it or not, depending on their belief system. But the testimonies out there about the fact that this is how these people operate, and this is what they do, and this is their intent, and that they use occult practices to in the entertainment industry as a whole is, there's vast testimonies of people that speak about this, okay? We're just bringing together the threads so that people can see them all in one place, but it's all, there's a lot of stuff out there about this. And in fact, if you go on Facebook, you can join Esoteric Kitten Deceptions page, and you can just go back for 2 or 3 years reading about all of the different kinds of testimonies and evidences of this kind of about all of the mind control programming in Hollywood and the connections to occult practices. Okay? Now, this then brings us to the next topic, that is Katy Perry, Russell Brand, and then we can go from there. Okay?
Well, hang on a second. I just want to zoom it out into a bit of a context, because this is part of our ongoing conversation, you and I, Katy, is we're trying to observe to people that there is an externalization of satanic ritual that is coming out and happening on a mass scale, so that everybody who like watches the television at a particular time will have voluntarily come to this point, come to this ceremony voluntarily. Right? They want to go to the football game. They want to go, and they sandwich this piece of poop right in the middle of it, of the big football game or the MTV. So it satisfies the rules, as it were. So we've been initiated by the death of Princess Diana and by 9/11. Britain was Diana, and 9/11 was for America. It was a kind of experiment, and we've had others since then. But those were the really big initiations that really kind of ripped people's hearts out. Mm-hmm. And that is equivalent to the MK programming as a child. And now we're coming through to the next cycle, and it's coming out in mass spectacle. And what we're seeing in these videos that you're describing is the popularization of satanic ritual practices, you know, the orgiastic part, the anything goes, do what you will kind of part, and all of those things it's to produce a chaos on the planet.
Absolutely. And it also, I mean, and the orgiastic principles all the way down to the goats. I mean, I just watched a video yesterday. It was somebody went into a Masonic lodge, participated in something at a fairly high level, and had a wire with a video, right? And basically, what were they doing? They were sitting on, there was the big Masonic floor, and then in the middle of the Masonic floor there was this big, humongous inverted pentacle, and then all of these people that were dressed like Ku Klux Klan members were sitting on the big pentacle, and they were sacrificing a goat.
As you do.
As you do, you know. And this was in some Masonic temple in Turkey. And it was all in Turkish because the person that did this was a Turkish person. It's literally like 1 minute long. It's not a big deal, do you know what I mean, in terms of footage. But that is what they were doing. That is what these people do. They do strange rituals. Why do they do these strange rituals? Not just because they like doing horrific things, but it's because when you sacrifice an animal, and you can read the whole Aleister Crowley thing, because he talks about all of this stuff quite openly. When you sacrifice an animal, that is like an offering of life force energy to entities that are on some other plane that take up this energy, and it feeds them, okay? And then what do these entities do for the people that are doing these sacrifices? Well, they help them in return. If you go and have a look at and listen to Robert Monet's testimony on YouTube, where he has a 2-hour interview with two very naive-looking young Christian people that interview him about his experience of being recruited into a satanic group in Montreal, right? This guy basically says that he was recruited into this. He was very young. He was like 18. He got pulled in by a friend, and gradually he attended these meetings, and these meetings were initially just about seances with the dead, and it was very positive and kind of new agey and low key and all the rest of it. And over a period of time, he got initiated into higher and higher levels until he got to a point where he was invited to somebody's house, and he went to this person's house, and all of these people then started very openly talking about the fact that they were worshipping demonic entities in exchange for favors. And he was shown how this guy was a lawyer, the person whose house it was, and he heard all of these typewriters writing, right? And then the guy opened the door, and he showed him all the typewriters were typing on their own, right? Because the demonic entities were actually doing the typing. It was like a demonic entities, a stenography and typing services.
Oh my! Anyway, yeah, go on. What were they typing?
All this lawyer stuff, right? So he was apparently ascending in the lawyer world because obviously he didn't need to hire anybody.
He had demon lawyers. How good they must be. And that tells you everything about everything, doesn't it?
It does. And then, so he was kind of shocked by that piece, right? And then the other, he attended these meetings, and the meetings were talking all about the fact of how they were going to, it was like the plan that they had, and it was a step-by-step plan, and how they were going to gradually lure people into lowering their astral defenses by introducing a lot of stuff about mediums, so that people would channel, so that people would do all sorts of things, and then there was this whole New World Order take over the world kind of thing. But the other thing that was relevant, about this dude, was that there were people sharing about their experience, almost like as an AA meeting. Hello, my name is so and so, and this is my experience, right? There were people standing up and they were saying, since I made my pact with the demonic entities, I've become a super top surgeon because my patients don't bleed, so I can keep them open until I want to, and then I can do these really complex surgeries on them. So I'm making all this money, do you know what I mean? And so on. So it was like success stories of bonding with the demonic world, right? And, if you haven't watched this testimony, it's worth watching, even if it has. I always put this disclaimer because I know a lot of people don't like the Christian thing, and neither do I in a lot of ways, right? But the Christians go there with the demonic, and so a lot of these interviews that talk about the demonic often are packaged and put together by Christian people. So you have to be willing to swallow a little bit of fundamentalism, but the information is valid anyway. Do you know what I mean?
I know. It's a bit like some of the early truther stuff was made by the right-wing Christian groups.
It was.
And,
it was.
You just had to, we're all on the same train. Everybody's in a different carriage.
Exactly.
Let them stay in their carriage, that's fine. Just
when you get into the demonic kind of research, when you get into researching the occult stuff, and you touch into the demonic type stuff, you will find that about 80% of the stuff out there that talks about this is being brought forward by the Christians, and the reason for that is because their belief system allows it. In their belief system, they understand or believe the demonic piece, and so they can talk about it without inhibition, right? Well, instead, for a lot of non-Christians, it's like a strange topic to talk about, and so there's less understanding of it and less willingness to explore it. Okay, so they seem to be the ones that are kind of carrying that torch because their belief system allows it, because in the Bible there's demons and all the rest of it, right? Now, their interpretation about what it is all about, I often don't agree with it. But you will find that a lot of testimony actually comes from that field. Okay, so the caveat, the warning on this is, if you go and listen to Robert Morneau's stuff, it's very Christian packaged, but the testimony is very interesting. Okay.
Yes, nobody does the demonology like the Christians.
Exactly.
Listen, it's the top of the hour, Katie. Do you want to take a break?
Okay. Sure.
We're going to do some madness with Muse, I think. You like that?
Sure.
Welcome back to Out of the Box. Katie, where are you?
Yeah.
I said when the music stops, you come back in.
I was waiting for you to talk.
I was getting my tea.
Message.
Mercury retrograde once again. Oh, brilliant. I love it. But I got talk, please. I've got a mouthful of apple.
What are you eating? I want to know.
Apple.
Apple. Okay. All right. So we've done demons and we've done showbiz and all the rest of it, which we've done many times. Okay. Now, going in from that,
Katie.
I would like to. Yes.
Katy Perry. Not Katy
Katy
Gallanti.
Perry. Okay, yeah, Katy Perry. Well, Katy Perry and Russell Brand, right? Okay, Katy Perry is one of the top-level Illuminati entertainment starlets at the moment, okay? And regardless of Russell Brand, if we just talk about her for a second, Katy Perry, there's 2 videos on YouTube that you can find if you plug in Katy Perry selling soul to the devil, right? In which she's being interviewed. The interview is probably 2 or 3 years old, maybe more than that. And she's being interviewed by somebody, and she says that when she was about 15, 16, she was kind of like a Christian gospel type singer. Her parents were ministers and all the rest of it. And then she wanted to be the Amy Grant of music. I have no idea who Amy Grant is, but that's what she says. But it didn't work out, and so she sold her soul to the devil, and now she is who she is. Okay? And she actually says this in an interview. Okay?
Holy crap.
Yeah. Now, if you actually then go and have a look, like I've been following Katy Perry's videos for a very long time, just the same way that I've been following Rihanna's videos, just the same ways that I followed Beyonce's video or Lady Gaga's video, because she's in that category, okay? And Katy Perry, you can see, I'm not 100% sure that she is MK Ultra, because, and by MK Ultra I mean a split personality mind control kind of person, because if she sold, my understanding of the music industry at a certain level is that there's 2 different kinds of people. There's the ones that were mind controlled since they were children, like Britney Spears and all of the members of the Mickey Mouse Club, okay, and I think that Miley Cyrus is one of these as well, who basically have split personalities that are mind controlled to do certain things. And then there are the people that came into the game and sold their soul for fame. And I would put Jay-Z, for example, in that category, okay? There's the people that come in and then they basically agree to participate into a certain kind of system so that they can get all of the fame, all of the riches and all of the favors. Katy Perry may actually be, I'm not sure about her early background, but she's definitely somebody that has at the very least made an agreement to play the game. Okay, and if she is MK Ultra, she may not be fully aware of what she's doing, and if she's not, then she made some agreements to do whatever. For example, Eminem, if you go and have a look at Eminem, he talks openly in his album Recovery, and you can go and look at his album Recovery on YouTube and read the lyrics. Okay? And he openly talks about the pact that he made with the devil, and he openly talks about how, by the devil I mean, you know, whatever this energy is that people are making an agreement with, which I actually think is an astral entity type thing that has to do with extra-dimensional consciousness. You know, we have kind of boxed it into the like ruler of all evil thing, but it's not really that. I think that we're dealing with just a very dark consciousness on another dimension. Okay. Now he talks about the fallout that came in his life as a result of making these agreements, and these agreements apparently are not ones that one can get out of very easily once you've actually made them. So they are artists like Bob Dylan, where you can tell that they're not happy with the agreement that they made, that they probably entered into it in a naive way, but then they're stuck with it and they can't actually get out of it. And Katy Perry does not look like a very happy person. I don't think that she is somebody that is super happy with whatever agreement she made. Okay. Now enter. So if you look at Katy Perry, her videos, if you look at her video Candyland, in the video Candyland, she is, you can go to Vigilant Citizen, he does an excellent breakdown of that video. And in that video, there's Snoop Dogg, who was the friend of Tupac, who, as we know, was bumped off, okay? And he plays the part of Lucifer in that video, if you know what you're looking at, okay? So go look at the whole archive of Katy Perry stuff, and you will see MK Ultra themes, you will see Luciferian themes, you will see Baphomet symbols, you will see alter personalities, different wigs kind of symbols, you will see promoting, she has a video where she promotes, going into the army after you have left your boyfriend. They use her very much as somebody, they use her videos very much for programming of various kind of ideas. Unlike Miley, that is being used to program the lowering of the bar as far as sexuality is concerned and sexual energy, Katy Perry is being used to program other things like join the army, like Lucifer's cult, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. She has a much more innocent image, but they use her videos for programming of a different kind, okay? Now, she married Russell Brand, right? Okay. There is a picture of Russell Brand actually flashing the symbol obey to her. Now, I've been following the discussions with people on Facebook, and people are going absolutely crazy with anger for anybody pointing out that Russell Brand may be part of the agenda. So I'm going to tread very carefully here because people have a lot of feelings about this, okay? But you have to look at the track record of this person, and I think that at the very least, one has to question the people that he's hanging out with, and even if you were to come to the conclusion that Russell Brand is fine and he's innocent and there's nothing wrong with him as a person, that he's just speaking his mind and all the rest of it, the company that he keeps is very interesting. And I believe that no matter how you slice it, this guy is being used as a tool to bring forward a certain agenda. And we can talk in a minute about what that agenda is. But just to look at Russell Brand and his history, he married Katy Perry. He could be a handler, all right? He talks openly about all of this sexual history that he has as somebody mega promiscuous and all the rest of it. Now, that often happens with handlers, that they are promiscuous because they have to interact with all of these kind of like MK Ultra, programmed people and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay?
So Katie, can we just wind back a bit, because what is a handler?
Okay.
And who makes handlers, and what is behind all that? Because to say somebody's handler, we need to have some background on that.
All right. Okay. I'll do my best on this. Okay. We have to go back to the whole mind control thing and what a mind control slave is and how that works, okay? Mind control slave, trauma, they split the person's personality with trauma, and they program each personality, they imprint each personality with code access codes, right? This sounds like sci-fi, but it's not sci-fi, unfortunately. There's something that happens through trauma that creates freeze frame experiences. If anybody has had experience of deep trauma as a child, and then has retrieved those memories which often happens spontaneously as one is growing up, we can talk about trauma triggers. Trauma triggers are basically something happened. For example, let's say that you were beaten up really badly when you were a kid during a particular episode. And during that episode in which you were being really beaten badly to the point of death, say, by some psychopathic kind of person, let's say that right in front of you there was a yellow lampshade, okay? Your psyche most likely, as a result of that trauma, will tuck that memory away because it was too painful for you to experience, and it will create a alter personality that is stuck somewhere in your subconscious that holds all of that traumatic experience for you, and that alter personality associates that trauma with the yellow lamp. Okay? As an adult, you may be going around your business and, being totally happy with your trauma personality stuck in the back of your mind, in your subconscious, and off you go, and you're having a great time with your boyfriend, and all of a sudden you see a yellow lamp that is very similar to the one that you saw as a child. All of a sudden you're having panic attacks, you want to vomit, you know what I mean? And if your psyche is ready for it, you may have flashbacks of this experience that come out of nowhere, and then you're like, oh my God, what is this? Why am I thinking this? And I had this experience when I, at some point in my 20s, of remembering certain things in that way. It literally felt like slides coming in that had nothing to do with me. And then eventually I kind of pieced it all together, and it made sense, okay? That is how trauma works. It does that. Now, what the powers that be have done, and this was based very much on the work of Dr. Mengele, which a lot of the super soldiers actually mention as Mr. Green, right? And if you go and read Cisco Wheeler's How to Create an Undetectable Mind Control Slave book written by Fritz Springmeier, you will see in there that it talks extensively about Mr. Green, who was part of creating these split people, and based in some place in Nevada at the time. And a lot of people have decided that Mr. Green was actually none other but Dr. Mengele, that was exported from after the end of World War II via Project Paperclip into the underbelly of of the secret projects, right? Okay. So anyway, obviously they did research on trauma, and they decided that splitting somebody's psyche could actually be good, because when a person is traumatized, they're highly programmable because they freeze frame on certain aspects, okay? And so what they do is that they split people into many, many parts, and each part has a trauma trigger attached to it, and that trauma trigger is then used by a handler to bring back the personality that they want to be front personality at the time. So in the normal process of trauma, like normal trauma without somebody programming the trauma, the trigger will bring back the trauma, right? But in the programmed trauma, that's not the case, because they don't leave it random. What they do is that they traumatize the person, and at the same time they program them, and so that they program the personality to operate the way that they want it to operate. And so what they do then is that they use a trauma trigger as the code to bring forward the alter personality into the forefront. Now, these codes, and the personality is actually split in very specific ways, and then these codes are used to bring the back personalities forward. These codes are actually put into a file for that person, and then anybody that has these access codes is called a handler, because the handler will use the access codes to bring forward the personalities of the MK person that are fit for whatever it is that that person is doing at that time. So you will see Anna Nicole Smith, for example, she had a handler. It was that guy that took the video of her freaking out and becoming a child. Do you remember that video?
Oh, yes, and she talks, and everybody says she's really stoned, but we talked about that on the last, on one of our previous programs, about how, what was going on in that one.
Yeah, she wasn't stoned. She was in an very young alter personality, okay? And obviously something triggered her spontaneously, so she spontaneously went into this alter personality. But Anna Nicole Smith was definitely an MK Ultra puppy. And by the way, these people that are MK Ultra puppies, very often they're very innocent. It's not their fault that they were chosen to be these people, especially if they were programmed since they were children. So they're innocent, but they're being moved around like pawns, and they're basically people that can be programmed to carry out certain agendas without questioning. And there's various reasons for which that is convenient for the elite to have people that can be used in that way. Okay. Now, so Russell Brand was actually seen flashing the obey symbol to Katy Perry during an Oscar ceremony. Now, a lot of people have come from that have said, well, he's a handler. He's Katy Perry's handler. Which could be, and you can put that as a question mark. Was he his handler? We don't know. Do you know what I mean? We don't know enough. We don't know if that is true or not, but it's one of those things where you're like, I put it in the file with the questions, the flashing symbol with obey on it to Katy Perry, who most likely is an MK, right, during Oscar's ceremony. Now, there's other things that raise question marks about Russell Brand, okay, and one of them is that he was chosen as one of the people that had a prominent role in the closing ceremony of the Olympic ritual, okay. I'm calling it Olympic ritual because that's what it was. It's like the whole of the Olympics was just one big chunky ritual, okay, and the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony were definitely all very carefully thought out, full of symbolism and telling you a story, right? And Russell Brand was part of that. And he was introduced after, if you go and have a look at the footage of the Olympic closing ceremony, it's actually really interesting. And there's a stage in there where they're building a white pyramid with these stones that look like sugar cubes, okay? And the white pyramid has 33 layers. And then at the end, they sing Imagine, the song by John Lennon. And what does that song say? Beyond how we like or not like John Lennon, the song says, imagine a place that has no borders, no countries, no religion, whatever. Well, that is all very nice, but it's also the one world agenda, okay? To have no borders, no countries, all big one world pyramid, one world government, okay? And while they're singing that song, there's all of the flags of all of the different countries behind the white pyramid. And then from there, a big John Lennon head comes out of the ground, okay? So there's this big John Lennon kind of like thing in the air, and right after that, Russell Brand comes out in a top hat and stripy clothes, and people that haven't done a lot of MK research may not know this, but very often a handler is in stripy clothes, like stripes. If you go and have a look at Miley Cyrus's VMA video, the guy that is with her has black and white stripes, okay? If you go and look at Russell Brand on the top of the bus, he's in stripes, okay? The reason for that is because it's a hypnotic trigger, apparently. So you can put that as your next question mark. He's wearing stripes, okay? He's also singing about magic. He's on top of the Magical Mystery Tour bus, and he's singing about magic, and he has a top hat on, okay? Top hat is a symbol for Master Mason, okay? There's other pictures of Russell Brand with a top hat on, and in fact I can even send you one in a link and you can post it to the chat room. But basically there's other images of him with top hat on. It seems to be one of his things. He may just like the top hat, who knows. And then he transitions into singing I Am the Walrus, and he actually sings it himself. And so he's embodying the John Lennon archetype and the Beatles archetype, right? And the I Am the Walrus, which, interestingly enough, out of all of the tunes that they could have picked, is kind of interesting because you remember the whole Paul is Dead thing?
Yeah, very fresh in my mind. The walrus was Paul because Paul was disfigured, and
that's right.
You know, yeah, go on.
So it's kind of interesting that that's the song that he's singing because out of all of the songs, you know, then you have to go into the whole occult Beatles thing, and this is another very controversial topic because a lot of people don't want to hear about the occult Beatles. They put the Beatles on a massive pedestal, but just Google occult Beatles and read everything that you can.
We've covered. I've covered this in various shows with other guests and hosts, and you know we're well versed. Also, you know, just to roll a little bit back, if you use the word imagine,
yes,
you immediately put someone in alpha.
Absolutely.
So that's a trigger. That's a global trigger. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, and not only does he say imagine, but he also says imagination over and over in the first few minutes in which he's on top of the bus, right? He's singing something from Willy Wonka, right? And he uses the word imagination, magic, okay? And he's on top of the magical mystery tour bus, so magic, right? And I think some of these rituals sometimes are actually about communication that they're having within the elite. They're not even, you know, because most people don't pay any attention to that. They don't understand these codes. They don't understand any of it. Do you know what I mean? But it's almost like announcing something, right? Now, is he aware of it? My gut feeling is yes, but I may be wrong on this one, and I'm not going to ride it. I'm not going to ride the fact, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to push the fact that, yeah, sure, he's totally aware of it, and he's a bad guy, and all the rest of it. Let's just put question marks on that. We don't know that, okay? But what we do know, there's a lot of strange stuff around the way in which they're presenting him. And the way in which he was presented during the Olympic ceremony closing ritual was interesting to me because they really, you know, people already think of John Lennon and all of his work as you know, he was a humanitarian and he was somebody that wanted world peace, do you know what I mean, and all of that kind of stuff.
And is almost deified here.
Absolutely.
And I think that was part of the occult Beatles thing, that they were promised that they would be Supermen.
That's right.
We'll all be magic Supermen. We'll all be magic Supermen. We'll all be magic Supermen.
All right, yeah. And, yeah, so anyway, so then he is introduced in a very archetypal way. He's introduced in a way that overlaps the image of John Lennon, one world, one peace, do you know what I mean, magical mystery tour, and then in he comes on the bus. Everybody's got their own emotional responses to Beatles material, and then when he comes off, and by the way, the bus is a one-eyed bus. You know the windows at the beginning of the bus?
Oh, yeah.
It's like two windows at the front, and one of them is closed. So it's a one-eyed bus.
Oh.
All right. And then he gets off of the bus. All right. And then he is surrounded by people. And the closing scene is him in the middle, surrounded by people that are kind of worshipping him. Right. And very reminiscent of the cover of Sgt. Pepper. You know, when they're in the middle
Which
of
is a funeral scene.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's the cover with Alistair Crowley on the cover.
Yeah, he's sitting there at the back, and somewhere else apparently, in two places.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of say hi to everybody in the chat room, and Beatrixie is talking about something very, very interesting here. Her final post is saying, seems to me they're putting him out there as the, quote, God to follow rather than allowing the natural awakening of the individual, which is not a group think thing. This is the big thing, is... All right, so we've got these two threads here. One of them is informed, it's created from within, formed from within, by our own soul energy. And this is our path to follow, which is individual. Then there is also the attempted hijacking of this by the powers that be to continue their rule over us, to continue them being able to schlep our energy out from each of our chakras in turn on different levels all day, every day. We are literally plugged into the matrix. If we could only see it, we are just not able to see it, and we're just not able to hear telepathy anymore. This is what I've been, my sort of group, my mind crunching thing has been doing this. This is what the Anunnaki did to us. They took away our telepathy, and they took away our ability to think for ourselves, and they did that through genetic modification, and they sustain it through trauma, mind control, and group think, which is this, which is what Russell Brand is promoting there. It's a group thing. It's a communist group thing. He's a kind of general lefty kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And I would probably 5 years ago have put myself in that place. I get where he's saying, and I get that everybody gets it. I get that. But what we're saying is that because he's presented to you in such a blatant way, all over the TV, all over the BBC, who incidentally support Jimmy Savile and continue to support him. So, that whole thing is, they are ritual pedophiles themselves, not ritual, serial and ritual pedophiles in the BBC. So, of course, they not want to put anything that would actually put them in any kind of danger. So why, how do you think that Russell Brand is going to say anything that's going to damage the status quo, i.e. the BBC? I don't know. But anyway, just my humble.
Yeah, and all of that, every single thing that is being said in the chat room, right, that you mentioned, and your summary, I agree with it. I think there is all really valid points. And then the other thing is about looking at, okay, so what is happening with what Russell Brand is actually saying? Well, what is happening, for example, is that he is being just given guest editor privileges with the New Statesman, okay? So I did some research.
And that's a WTF.
Absolutely. Because I did an hour of research on the New Statesman, okay? I went to their website, I had a look at who founded them, I had a look at various things, and basically the New Statesman was founded by the Fabian Society, and if you do research on the Fabian Society, you can see that they are like a leftist, New World Order, one world government through socialism type organization, okay? The New Statesman is also connected to the London School of Economics, which is pretty much the same thing. On the cover of the New Statesman that's been put together by Russell Brand, there is the symbol of a brain inside of a light bulb that looks like a fist that's plugged into the word revolution, really big in big characters. Underneath it, it says in very small characters, of consciousness, okay? But most people would just see the revolution thing. That's the trigger, revolution. And then around it, there's this circle of leaves that looks very much like things that you've seen associated with the UN, things that you've seen associated even with Christ, okay? And he's very much riding the Christ messianic archetype, even if his world tour is called Messiah Complex, and he's telling you that he's not the Messiah. He kind of looks like it, and he is being, and again, I don't know if he's doing this consciously or not, or if he's being handled, because he could be somebody that is being handled himself. Do you know what I mean? And by handled, it means, you know, he's not on TV all by himself. He has agents, he has people, you know, that do his wardrobe, he has people that help him along. He could be even completely innocent in all of this. I have my doubts that somehow that somebody completely innocent could be chosen as part of the Olympics ritual, but let's say he's completely innocent, just as a hypothesis, okay? Even if he's completely innocent, he is being used, and he's being used to put forward a very messianic, John Lennon-y, peace and love, save the world, kind of, not save the world necessarily, but, you know, he's saying all very good things, but he's saying them supported by the wrong people, okay? And then if you have a look at what's actually in the New Statesman's issue, he has pulled in some of the same people that were used by the Occupy movement, like Naomi Klein, and, you know, did he really pull them in himself? Who knows? You know, these may, I don't know. But the Occupy movement, there's a lot of research out there that shows that part of the Occupy movement, and I'm not talking about the people that joined in general, because all of these things plug into desires and real energies of the mass consciousness, okay? So, but they are plugging into something, but they have an agenda for it, and there is a lot out there that shows that the Occupy movement was intertwined with, you know, fake revolution type organizations like, is it Optpor? AOTPOR, Serbian organizations that manufacture structures of revolutions in various countries backed by American funding. Go and have a look and you will find it. And they use very standard ways of kind of like manipulating and steering revolutionary urges towards wherever they want them to go.
Okay, so hang on a second, Katie. You said American. Let's say CIA, shall we?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not the American people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not the people, but it's the CIA.
Yeah. So, you know, basically, the experience that I have had in talking about this over the past couple of days on Facebook has been that I have received more hateful stuff directed at me than I think I have in the past 3 years, okay? Like, somebody called me a copy and paste scholar, right? Because I actually quoted something that came from another page, right? Apparently I'm trying to spoil I'm a paranoid maniac that's trying to spoil everybody's fun. Okay.
So revolutions are fun, are they?
Revolution is fun.
Oh yeah, that's one of his things, isn't it? Revolution is fun.
Well, it obviously must be. And by the way, revolution is fun is part of the Occult agenda. Go on YouTube and watch there's a video on YouTube that is called The Business of Revolution. Okay? And it's about, I think it's about 30 minutes long. It's worth the watch. And it's basically all about Occult and how they have this whole revolutionary handbook. And basically they give their services for successful revolution, low-key revolution to all of these various countries that need it. Okay? And you will see that revolution equals fun is very much part of the way in which they operate, because they want people to have a sense of bonding with one another, to associate what they're doing with joy, do you know what I mean? And so they advise people, for example, to have, fun things to do during their sit-ins and stuff so that people can bond, which is exactly what happened at the beginning of the Occupy movement in New York, okay? And again, I'm not saying that people that joined the Occupy movement were not real and sincere. I think they were very real and very sincere, but that does not mean that there's not manipulative forces at work within these spontaneous movements, okay, that steer things wherever they want them to go. And I personally think that the elite, NWO, whatever you want to call them, they really want a revolution. That's how they've always managed things in the past. If you look at the history, if you look at our history, revolution is how they change regime and give everybody the feeling that something has changed. But then they co-opt the movement and they get at the head or behind the scenes of the next regime. And so revolution is not a good way to go forward. Yeah. Change, but revolution, no. And revolution, it has to come from, it's like the real change here. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday. The real change is at this particular point, real change is not going to come from some big blast off, throw everything up in the air kind of thing. All that is going to achieve is a fist of police state smash down that is going to have an excuse to use its force. Okay? And, that's one option. The other option is they're just going to co-opt it and give you whatever. The way to create change at this time, I think the only real way to create change is to opt out of the system. Like, you have to opt out. You don't have to destroy it. You have to build another one alongside it and opt out of what is there. Okay? And it has to come from us, not from something that is fed from the outside. And I'm sorry to say, the lesson here for humanity, we can't be rescued from this. We have to create it. Okay? It's time to create something, not to be rescued and given a solution. And remember that how the elite operates is always problem, reaction, solution. Always, right? That's how they do it.
Well, I mean, just to go through their process is, and to quote the Elders of Zion protocols, which were apparently, according to everybody, are fake, but they're exactly how things are playing out. Yep. And they were written quite a long time ago, so they do seem like very close to the plan, even if it has a little bit of disinfo in it. But basically what they're saying is nothing ever changes, but you create the illusion of change.
Absolutely. Well, isn't that what Obama was all about?
Yeah, well, hoping for change. We're making change. Change of person. Change. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, when Obama was warming up to being president, when he appeared as a candidate and all the rest of it, and people started looking into his background, and they were like, hang on a minute, this dude has very close connections to Brzezinski, right? It's Mr. Illuminati Mastermind.
Zbigniew Brzezinski.
Yeah, and let's be a little cautious about this guy, because look at the people that he's been mingling with, and at the time people said exactly the same thing. Oh, you're a party pooper. So what if he had a few connections with who I call Zibingy Wingy? So what? You know what I mean? He's a good guy. Okay, so he has a few bad friends. Oh, well, he was connected to the Chicago mob. Oh, well, who cares about that? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, he wants change. He's positive. He's bringing something positive. Why do you have to be such a negative whatever, pointing out all of these nasty things about this person? And it's like, okay, well, and now it's played out. And now I don't think there's many people that can, where's the change? Where's the change? There isn't any change. Okay? And in fact, if there's any change, it's like Obamacare, it's like laws that allow the president to decide that somebody needs to be killed. What kind of change is that? Do you know what I mean? Okay? And if you look at Russell Brand, at the very least, he is being used by the elite and by leftist think tank type organizations of the elite, such as the ones that plug into the New Statesman, to carry forward a particular aspect of the agenda. Okay?
Yeah. You see, I mean, in a way you can look at Russell Brand and see, you know, if he was such a poor kid, and this is something that, you know, may also go into the mix here, but if he was such a poor kid, he's very, very bright, right? And he's got a lot of handsomeness, you know, a lot of charisma, and he's tall and thin. He's got dark hair, dark eyes, but generally he could well be bloodline, because
Absolutely.
like you were saying, these bloodline people, they're very promiscuous. They spread their seed everywhere.
They do.
Know, and his mother was a heroin addict, yeah, well, or something, or, you know, some kind of apparently low life, but maybe just one of these people that's been dumped out into the world to further traumatize them, to make them ripe and tender, so that when their offspring come back in, they can be instantly groomed, trained, and plugged directly into the places where they're supposed to be. How about that?
Which is how we know they operate anyway. Look at Bill Clinton, look at Obama, and they all children of single mothers. Do you know what I mean? And they all people that have had supposedly this really rough time. Like, we have to also understand that this is part, even the, they had such a rough upbringing and all the rest of it. Maybe not. It's all story. It's what they're telling you about somebody. But is it really what happened? We don't know. All that we know is what is being said and what is being told. It could even be that Russell, you know, and here I'm not saying this is how it is. I'm saying think about stuff, okay? Because Russell Brand could be himself somebody that is an MK. Do you know what I mean? With that kind of background, he himself could be an MK, and he himself could be just living out a program that is absolutely authentic in feel and all the rest of it, just like a lot of other people have done in the past. Okay?
Well, like, you know, everybody's got their talents. You know, he's got excellent talent for being a bullshitter, but you know, he's a bullshit. He just charms his way into women's pants, and that's what he likes doing, and he's very obvious and blatant about it, and that's what he says he does all the time. And if somebody would have come in and said, "Look, I've got a proposal for you. We can give you lots and lots of money. You can play with the most beautiful women in the world, who will obey your every whim because we've given you this little plastic key. And all you have to do is occasionally we'll ask you to say some things. That's all it takes. But just be yourself, Russell. You're fantastic. You're fabulous at WOSI. Come, you know, keep up with that baby talk. He didn't say any of that baby talk when he was talking to Jeremy Paxman, was he, on Newsnight, the BBC intellectual flagship program. That's about as bright as it gets on the BBC. You know, being clever is being argumentative and and I can't even say it. Not controversial.
Conceited?
Not conceited. No. Not conservative, it's probably not beginning with con. That's probably the thing. Look, that shows how intellectual I am. I'm sub-BBC intellectual. Anyway. Confrontational!
Confrontational, yay!
I knew I'd get it. You see, that's the problem that's been happening to me. I've been losing my worms. Have you been losing your worms recently?
I have, and I think it's the solar flares.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because we're going through a solar pole shift, apparently, and everybody's really tired and kind of out of it and not very grounded right now. Okay.
So we got about 5 minutes, Kate, so we better wrap up.
The last 5 minutes, I still wanted to say something about the Russell guy, right? Is, you know, who he is and what he is about. Only he ultimately inside of himself knows that. all that we are doing is just saying, question mark over here, question mark over there, question mark over there. Look who he's working for. Look who's giving him airtime. Look, the organization that he has been taken up by, which is the New Statesman. Look at who founded the New Statesman. Look at who is plugging in energetically into the New Statesman. Why would they want somebody like Russell Brand doing his thing? Why are they using the word revolution? Revolution is a heavy word. It's a big word, and they're using it. They're saying he is the one that is leading the new revolution. The new revolution, there's been truther movement out there for the past, 10, 12 years, going on about all sorts of stuff. Absolutely. All of a sudden, this person is the leader of the revolution. It's suspect, and we need to be able to separate our feelings of profound, like for certain people's personalities from actually how they may be planted into certain things, okay? He may be completely, unaware of what it is that he's doing, but he's still being plugged into a setup that smells of agenda. Also, the fact that he was actually married to Katy Perry, to me, is very suspicious, because I don't think that they allow anybody, any outsider, to marry somebody that is a top-tier Illuminati entertainment industry person.
Bloodline.
I just don't see it happening. Do you know what I mean? I don't see
Bloodline.
Exactly. So, and then there's the other thing that is, even if he is constantly going on about the fact of how many people he's sleeping with, his quote-unquote serious relationship after Katy Perry was with Jemima Khan, born Goldsmith, and both of her brothers are married to Rothschild. Okay? She has two brothers, both of which are married into Rothschild women. Okay? And this woman is the woman that he has been dating after Katy Perry. And she was, her partner before Russell Brand was Hugh Grant. Okay? Now, this woman is also, she's a kind of like left-wing activist, and she is the associate editor of the Statesman. Okay? So do your homework, people. Just look into people's background and who they hang with and all the rest of it. You want to listen to what he's saying, you resonate with it, fine. But don't allow somebody to spout your own thoughts and your own, stuff and follow it blindly where it's going. Just all that is being said here is keep your eyes open about how that energy and information is maybe used to pilot something that you don't actually want to be a part of. Okay? Exactly.
So, with that, Katy Gallanti, for another month or so, unless we decide the news gets just too intense and we need to put some more communications out.
Right.
We can do that through YouTube or other means.
Or we can do it on another day.
Yeah.
That is not. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or I've got regular slots and things like that. In fact, I've got a Blog Talk Radio account that I very rarely use. That might be interesting.
So do I. Mm-hmm.
So it's been lovely to do this with you once again, and I'm going to find the outro intro. There we go. And we'll be back in a few minutes' time with Ever Beyond. Tonight's subject is structured water, and we'll be speaking with Clayton Nolte and Donna Mayton. So, thank you, Katy.
Okay, and lots of love, and we'll speak soon.
We will. Bye now.
Bye.